You said the common law doesn't exist?
No, it exists, but the problem is the people that are to implement it, the true courts, are not there right now because we've overthrown. They're basically all administrative type courts, and they're operating under the UCC in one respect. In Alaska, they have come out and say it. UCC is the supreme law in Alaska. They put a holding on it.
Okay. Well, I have actual written proof from two separate courts, one up in New Hampshire and one down here in West Virginia, that the common law does exist and it does work very well. When two men were arrested with criminal charges, you can say administrative criminal charges, whatever you want to call them.
I'm having trouble understanding you.
Yeah, Karl, what are you on the phone or what? You're sounding so bad. Get right into your mic, into your mouthpiece there.
All right, can you hear? Is that really good?
Yeah, it's better. Yeah.
Okay, like I said, it's very simple. I said when a man was arrested, an ex-felon was arrested with a handgun in his car at 3 o'clock in the morning. Obviously, an ex-felon with a loaded handgun driving around in a bad neighborhood, he should go to jail and probably go right back to jail. Well, he just evoked the common law, and all we put into the court was 1 or 2 sentences where basically just said, if there's a man that's going to come forward and make a claim I've done something wrong, I'm just here to settle a debt with that man. If no man's going to come forward and make a claim I've done something wrong, I wish for this case to be discharged. And the case was dismissed about 2 weeks after he was arrested.
I've got cases like that too, but that doesn't prove. The first thing is you got to go in. Is that judge actually qualified? He may abide by it. That doesn't mean he's bound by it. And
no. The judge did not dismiss the case. The judge pushed it over to get a grand jury indictment. The prosecutor said that the prosecutor will not prosecute the case. It was a no-low prosecutor because we called out the prosecutor, Bob, the prosecutor, that if he moves forward with a claim that when we evoke the common law and he's not going to be able to prove that this man has done anything wrong, we're going to hold Bob, who acts as the prosecutor, personally liable for bringing a false claim to the court.
I don't doubt what you're telling me is true. There are examples of this all over. I've done some myself. But what it does not do is get to the core issue of what the core problem is. First of all, I would say, is that judge, is he actually a public officer? Is that a true constitutional court?
It wasn't the judge.
I've done it here, and I've won with it. But I found out that our courts really don't exist. So you can't get something repeats that works for everybody.
Okay. Again, we're not going before the judge. We're just communicating with the person or the man or the woman who's prosecuting the case.
How many times have you used it?
This past month, twice. One was for a man who had a loaded handgun, an ex-felon, and the other man who got arrested for assaulting the police officers, resisting arrest, and domestic violence. And all three of those charges were also discharged because we went after the prosecutor, not after the judge.
Great. Hey, if it works, and if you got someplace where it's working, man, do it.
Okay, and the other question I had was the W form. Why don't you just file everything exempt? Why don't you just, when you employ it, why don't you just make everything exempt?
You do, and there's W4, you mark exempt. That's in their world.
Right. So what I'm saying is, why are you, I got in this conversation extremely late, and I hear a lot of IRS questions, and when people are having a problem with the IRS, why don't you just recommend that everybody just files, your W-4 under exempt and get every single dime?
That's what you do. I went through that. You file exempt, and if they come back and tell you no, you say, fine, I'll put it back to whatever you want because I need my job. Then you get around, you have the agent get around, and your employer say, I just need a signature of an agent. As soon as you get the signature of an agent, then you go under 7433 and you file in the procedural stuff against them, and they got 6 months to fix the problem. If they can't, then you can get around and take it to federal court and sue them up to $1 million.
Okay. What I'm trying to say is, why do you have to go into the federal court when you could just file exempt at the beginning, at the onset?
Because what happens if the employer says, hey, I'm not going to hire you unless you change this because the IRS told me. They send out form letters and said, we're going to change it for you. And then they keep out taking more money. So what's your remedy?
If I file a W-4 and I just write the word exempt, what are you saying that my boss is going to do to me?
Some of them, that they'll do. They'll have accountants that say, no, we're not going to allow that. And they'll get a hold of the IRS usually. And the IRS will send them a form letter that says, we won't allow that to happen, unsigned. So then they'll say, well, we want for this person to have 3 or 4 or whatever exemptions. What's your remedy?
What happened if you just say, I'm incompetent to put an answer down? I don't know. What you fill it out for me.
What happens if the employer just fires you? And what are you going to do then?
Okay.
You don't want people to lose their jobs because people have to have a means to support. I have offered a remedy that you get the signature, and then once you get the signature, then you go back against the agents, that signature, under 7433, and then you go in and tell them what they're doing wrong procedurally because they can't back it up. But you have to know what you're doing, and then they got 6 months to fix it. If they don't, then you can go into federal court and sue them for up to $1 million damages.
Okay, so if you sue them, then are you trying to tell me in 6 months when they fix it, your employer is not going to care any longer that you're exempt now?
The employee is out of it. You're going back against the agent.
Okay, what I'm trying to say.
While this is going on, say they take out 3 exemptions. Okay, let them take 3. You still got your job. Meantime, you're behind the scenes going after the, and actually you have to go to the area director. You don't go to the agent, but you have to have an agent's signature. You have to go to the area director, and I don't even have all of them in the United States because they try to keep them hidden because they don't want you knowing that there is a remedy.
So you're trying to say after 6 months they're going to cure the problem. So then from now on, my paycheck is going to my paycheck is my paycheck going to be completely without holdings, with holdings eventually.
Okay, here's what's going to let me back up. You start off and you put in exempt, and they go to the IRS and they say, no, we're not going to do it. So they take out 4. So you then, your exemptions will go to 4. The employer, you actually not an employee, employer, because that's a statutory employee if you look on your W-4 form. But anyway, they will keep taking the money out for 6 months. You go to the area director, and the area director has up to 6 months to say, where is your authority, and make it work. In the procedural world, they can't do it. So when that 6 months expires with the area director, then you, and all this time they're taking money out. Then you can go into the federal courts in the several states, and you can sue them up for $1 million.
Okay, now I understand that crystal clear. What I'm trying to say is, after 6 months, after you sue them for $1 million, are you saying on the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th month after that, they are no longer going to withhold any money from me?
I would say that would be true. I haven't done there yet because the bottom line is you're going to be able to prove that they had no authority to do it, so then your employer is going to have to abide by the court decision.
Okay, so this is just speculation then. You've never actually had anybody do it.
I haven't got that far yet because we've been working on this subject matter jurisdiction and all these other cases to, one, get the first win when we put in the chief counsel notice in McAlpine's case, and we didn't even know for sure what we'd done. We got a win in 4 days.
Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that you're speculating that it should work according to the way you say it should work.
I am basing it on the information that I have right now with the other cases that every one of them has stopped.
Okay, so nobody's got their full paycheck after the 6th month, you're saying?
I haven't been doing that particular part of this. What I have been working on is people that are losing their property or notice of deficiency type stuff.
Okay, well, that's what I'm trying to say. All I'm trying to say is if you file exempt and you just say that the accountants don't want to withhold it, you just tell the accountant that then you say you be liable because I do not want to. I don't believe.
It's not going to be liable. If you're not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Whoever signs that piece of paper is going to be liable.
They're not going to. They're just going to change it. It's not going to be signed. I don't know how they change it. I don't know.
Okay, they take a pen and they just write down the number 4. Okay, a lot of big companies, the reason why they take exemptions out because they only have to turn the money in either quarterly or twice a year, and if it's a huge corporation like Coca-Cola and they have thousands and thousands of employees, they could take that money during 6 months and they can invest it in stocks or any speculation that they want to invest in. And all that money that they're collecting from employees every week, say $1 million that Coca-Cola is collecting, they don't have to turn it in every week. Coca-Cola could turn around and invest it in something for 26 weeks or 52 weeks.
Do you know what the subtitle A, B, C, and D taxes are?
Why would I want to know?
Why would you not want to know? Because outside of the District of Columbia, we have subtitle A, B, C, and D. Inside, we do not.
that like alcohol, tobacco, and firearms?
Absolutely. There's a little bit of difference between alcohol, firearms, and tobacco, and the IRS, and these are different things. And the only tax that they can do is a Subtitle A, Part 1 income tax.
I haven't dealt with the IRS since 1987. Okay, my mom worked for the IRS for 30 years.
Right.
Okay, so I don't understand. She explained to me how simple this was to file exempt.
You do.
And I don't understand. Right, and like you said, what I'm saying is you're guessing that maybe after 6 or 7 months, if they follow your method, they'll get that.
I'm going to take offense, not offense, I'm going to take exception to guessing, because I have spent tremendous amount and I can prove all of these different steps. Have I got to that last step? No. Can you prove that somebody has actually gotten fired because they wrote exempt? No, but I tell you what I have done is a couple of people have called and their employer said, you either do this or we're not going to fire you, but they haven't fired them yet because they want to keep their job, so they capitulate.
There's a simple U.S. law, a simple code that says if you do not want to disclose your Social Security number to an employee or you don't have one, you could actually turn around and sue the potential employer because you don't have a Social Security number.
I'm not going to mess with the leaves and the branches. I'm going after the jugular. We're stopping real cases with that have to do with property and stuff. As far as this other thing with the W-4, I haven't had anybody come forward with it yet. I've had a couple of people talk about it, but they haven't chosen to go that way.
Okay, well...
I'm dealing with more substantive issues beyond that. Taking your property, kicking you out of your house is pretty damn important. I'm going to be filing in for Jack Kyle, by the way. He's out of Texas. I get rid of habeas corpus on lack of subject matter jurisdiction. I have proven that what they're doing in 2 criminal cases, they're using substitute for returns, which is out of the public rights doctrine, which they cannot do.
Okay.
To put people in jail. That's a fact.
Okay, well, there's a very simple case going on in Canada right now. There's 571 cases to the CRA that's been stayed indefinitely because I had a man named Jason LeMay put one question before the court.
What are we talking about again now?
Okay. I was helping the folks up in Canada. They did the 1099 OID. They did the Winston Shrout stuff. Whatever they did, they got themselves in big trouble. Mm-hmm. So they were being prosecuted by the CRA. They actually were on TV, like a 60-minute show up there in the CRA.
Yeah.
Was said they were going to put them in jail. So 571 cases are stayed indefinitely because we asked a very simple question. We asked the CRA, whose property are we talking about? Whose property are you making a claim that is owed?
I have no comment about Canada. All I know is
it's very simple. If it's my money, if I earned it, if it's my money, it's my property. Now, we ask a simple question. Whose property are you talking about? Whose property do you want? Do you want my property? Do you want Canadian government property? It's my money, correct? Is it my property or is it your money? Is it your property? Whose property are we talking about?
Canadian law. I don't know.
And it's just the same thing you could do in the United States. If the United States...
It's not the same thing. They have different laws than we have down there.
Okay, all I'm trying to say is a very simple question. Every court in the universe, whose property is it? So if the IRS is trying to drag you into court, and you say, I earned that money, whose property is that? Is it my money? Is it my property? Are you making a claim for my property?
Some of the arguments that you've made about IRS and about money and there's money, income, and all these, I have followed a lot of different cases, and most of them, what they do, and down here, they just run over and put you in jail, and that's a fact.
Okay, who would put you in jail?
What do you mean who puts you in jail? Feds.
Okay, the Fed would, this is what I'm saying is very simple. When anybody gets a letter from the IRS, who calls me up or deals with me, we ask a very simple question. We just say, are you the man or the woman who's been assigned this case? Mm-hmm. And they say, yeah. As soon as they write a letter back, yes, my name is Susie Johnson, the Susie Cupcake, and I've been assigned this case. Great, lovely. So now we got her in the capacity of a woman. Now we don't go and start filing massive amount of paperwork. When somebody gets a piece of paper from the IRS, we ask one simple question. We see the person's name at the bottom of this.
And so this is working.
Oh, absolutely. It works great because
send me some documentation on it. I'll take a look at it.
There's a man in Australia with the ATO, and this happened very recently. and he mailed me a hat and he mailed me a coat from Australia because he said, "Do you want money or do you want an Australian hat and a coat?" I said, "I'd rather take a hat and a coat." But anyway, he very simple thing with the ATO. He had some woman write to him from the ATO, and he asked a very simple question: "You're the woman who's going to sign this case?" And she wrote back, "Yes, I'm the woman who's going to sign this case."
Give me some cases in federal court that I can look up on Pacer.
It never makes it go into court. We just try to get the man or woman liable for saying that the debt is due, and she knows it's not true.
What's your remedy then?
Okay, the simplest thing my mom said to me when I was a kid, all you have to do is what my mom used to do tax audits. She said all anybody had to do who sat down in front of me was say, "Oh, thank you, for this lovely assessment. This is how much you believe is owed." Okay, yeah, ma'am, can you just sign it and say that this is the true debt that I owe? And my mom said there is not one federal agent, not one U.S. agent that could ever tell a man what he owes. There's not one federal agent that knows what the debt is.
If they come and arrest you in the federal court, what's your options then? You're going to give them a letter?
Why did you have to wait until they took you into federal court? What I'm trying to say is the very first letter that they sent to you. This is what we deal with. We deal with the very first letter that is sent to you by the IRS.
Yeah.
Why are you waiting to go to the federal court? Why are you always running to it's not federal court, it's United States court.
It's a different method. Ralph has his, you have yours.
Well, there's a lot of people don't have the option. They come and haul them off to jail.
Why would they haul somebody off to jail? Can you give me an example why somebody's go at work?
Because they want to. They get around and say, "Well, you're not filing 1099s like they did a guy up here in Alyeska, Pump 2. They said, "Well, you're not filing 1099s because you're not filing the document. We're going to get around and take you to court. You just quit filing."
Okay, a 1099 is a contractor's document. Well, if
no,
you're
it's not
a
a contract. It's not a contract.
1099s is what, if I'm a contractor, my boss would
No, it's
tell me
called an implied-in-law contract. If you want to get technical, an implied-in-law contract is what somebody is turning you in, and it's not signed by both parties. That's a 1099.
Okay, so all I'm trying to say is this.
Contract.
Okay, all I'm trying to say is if somebody's trying to say that I owe a debt, all I have to ask the man or the woman,
We're just going
do you believe it? Do you believe it's true, and will you sign that document? If you sign the document and say that's how much I owe, I'll pay it.
Okay, so what you're saying is, how many wins have you had with people doing that?
Plenty. Hey, I'll give you a funny one that happened up in Canada the other day. A man was running a company.
How many wins?
Okay?
Well, let me ask you this. Have you had any losses?
Not that I know of. Let me tell you this one, if you think this is a loss or not, okay? A man went to court the other day in Canada. He had a meat market, okay? He got fined for not having the proper sanitation stuff, water, whatever, cleaning supplies, whatever. I said, he went in there and just said, okay, I'm guilty. What's the fine? They said $30,000. He said, okay, fine, $30,000. He said, I'll pay you $1 a day. And they said, okay, fine. Okay, so now he's still up and running. The court case is done. $30,000, $1 a day. That's going to be about 70 years. He'll be about 130 years old.
And what if the judge had not said that?
What judge say not what? Not said what?
What if he hadn't agreed to this, or the prosecutor?
He has to, because if you do not agree, if I'm not willing to pay you and you won't accept the payment on the debt is no longer due.